It's time for the Financial Crisis Talk Center with Ken Gross and David Einstandig from Thav Gross.
Credit card debt is number one. I view it as financial cancer.
40% of your gross income is going to just pay the debt service. You got no chance of getting out. I would give up my credit score to get rid of debt.
Here's your host, Ken Gross.
Hi, welcome back. Financial Crisis Talk Center time. We've got experts in the studio today. I've got Brian Small sitting in for David Einstein as co-host. He is our resident bankruptcy expert, and we're going to have questions for him. And we have Kate Mayotte, who was with us on our last segment, stayed over for this segment, employment law specialist, attorney, super nice person, cougar when she's against you as a lawyer. Not cougar in the kind of sense of older cougar as in cat, okay?
Okay.
Gold Star Law.
We let Ken talk far too often, clearly.
This is my one chance. No, I get other chances. So what we're talking about in this segment is workplace and other questions relating to bankruptcy. So we're going to take advantage of Kate being here and kind of cover issues that also relate to the workplace. But what the genesis of what I want to cover in this segment, Brian, is people often say to me, to you, and all of us, questions. They're general questions and concerns about bankruptcy. They're not the issues of can I file or what's my exemption or can I keep the house. They're more generic in nature. So I've got 12 of them I want to try and fire at you.
Yeah, the funny thing is about your generic questions are actually very specific questions. And these are the questions actually that every potential client looking for a bankruptcy should be asking. And we try to answer them regardless of whether they ask them.
All right, so let me start off with the first question. And I want answers, Brian. I want specific answers. I don't want BS. I want good answers so I can move on to the next one.
Can you handle the truth?
I can handle the truth. I deserve the truth.
All right.
Okay. If I file bankruptcy, can I be fired from my job?
Well, you can be fired from your job for wearing a purple tie. Isn't that right, Kate?
At will employment.
But can you be filed?
What's wrong with the purple tie?
Well, if you're an employee at will, correct me if I'm wrong, Kate, that you can be fired for any reason that has nothing to do with discrimination. I don't like the clothing that you're wearing. I don't like your tie. I don't like your shoes.
Speaking of which, you wore a Snoopy sweatshirt years ago.
That was a great Snoopy sweater.
So, we found it objectionable then.
And I never wore it after that.
Could I fire him 11 years after for wearing the Snoopy sweatshirt?
I don't see why not. It's not an illegal reason.
Okay, just want to know. I want to know that I've got that in my back pocket in case you pick on some of the things that come out of my mouth.
That's great. But from the standpoint of filing a bankruptcy, you cannot be fired from your employment, either public or private, for the reason of solely filing for bankruptcy.
All right, so I file a bankruptcy. The employer finds out about it and says, I'm very upset that you filed a bankruptcy. I don't like that type of person in my organization. You're fired.
Illegal. It's a violation of 11 U.S.C. 525 A and B, which is the part of the bankruptcy code, which is the anti-discrimination portion of the bankruptcy code, which says specifically you can't be fired for filing bankruptcy.
So if that happens, what do I do? Go to an attorney and sue? Go to my bankruptcy attorney and sue?
You actually go to your bankruptcy attorney, who may bring in special counsel
like
Kate for an employment reason, but the reality is you bring a lawsuit against the employer in the bankruptcy court, and you can recover damages.
All right, let me give you a different scenario. I'm working in a bank, so I'm handling money, and I file the bankruptcy, and the manager comes and he's aware of he finds out about the bankruptcy, which is going to be my next question, and he says, we're not firing you, but because you have demonstrated an irresponsibility with money, we're going to demote you and cut your pay and trim your responsibilities because we think you need to go back and get a little bit more financial training in order to be a appropriate member of our quote-unquote bank. Banks being such a esteemed organization of the highest possible caliber that never commit any egregious or outrageous acts such that people might get mad and sue them for.
Again, in my opinion, and I'm certain in the court's opinion, that is a clear violation of the anti-discrimination provisions of the bankruptcy
So
code.
it's not just firing. You can't have any you can't be punished as a result of filing the bankruptcy.
Well, that's an interesting question. Can you be punished by filing your bankruptcy? And you, with your current employer, the answer is absolutely no.
Okay.
But if you are looking out there for a prospective employer, private employers do not have to hire you because you've had a prior bankruptcy.
When you say private, what do you mean by private?
I mean a non-governmental unit.
When you say governmental, is it state and
State
federal?
and federal.
Municipal?
Municipal, those are governmental units.
So they can't discriminate against you.
A governmental unit cannot discriminate against you because you have had a prior bankruptcy.
Why do they create the distinction?
I don't know. I wasn't there when they wrote the bankruptcy code. And
can you do anything about that? I don't think it's fair.
1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, Washington, D.C., 20202. That's the complaint department.
Oh, okay.
Attention, President Obama.
All right, I'll send my letter. Okay, on to the next question. How do employers find out about bankruptcy filings? If I'm going to file, will my employer find out about it?
The answer is generally, well, first of all, a filing of a bankruptcy is a public act. It's a public piece of information. The bankruptcy records are available to anyone who wants to see them.
I mean, I don't see it written up in the Detroit News.
No, you don't see it written up in the Detroit News. There's no billboard on I-75. Quite often, publication of bankruptcies is listed in Cranes, but that's usually businesses only.
In that little section at the bottom that every business person goes and reads. It's obnoxious.
And if you're a big star, an athlete, somebody with notoriety, they're going to learn of your bankruptcy. But in general, even though it's public information, it's not going to be well known. Now, can your employer find out about it? Sure. They can find out about your financial difficulties from receiving a garnishment. Maybe they overhear a conversation where you're saying to an employee.
So they can find out in Chapter 13. They can find out because
in Chapter
there's a wage
13,
order
right? There's
sometimes.
A wage assignment, which is similar to a friend of the court wage assignment for child support or alimony.
Is that a big deal in your experience?
No.
I mean,
no. You know what? Most employers would prefer to have you taking care of business than not taking care of business.
Yeah, I actually had a conversation with a state employee attached to the casino industry. I don't want to get into
casino
specifics.
industry is really big.
It's exactly what he said to me is we want people to clean up their finances. We encourage them to do that rather than live with the finances. If you have financial pressure, that's a bigger risk to an employer. We'll be back after the break.
Are you struggling to pay your mortgage? Afraid of foreclosure and the financial mess it can cause? Time is not on your side. Call Alan Stalter, the short sale specialist. For years, Alan has been helping distressed homeowners navigate through the short sale process. His experience will get you out of your home without the credit score damage that follows foreclosure. If you want a fresh start, you need to call Alan Stalter, the short sale specialist, 248-854-3829 or MetroDetroitShortSale.com.
No one ever thinks that a serious injury can happen to them, but it can, and it does. And it can happen to you. And when it does, you need a fighter in that courtroom for you. Call me, Ben Johnson. Automobile accident, police misconduct, medical malpractice, product liability. You know what you're up against, how hard it is to get answers. When all you want is justice, call me, Ben Johnson. Whatever your legal crisis, I will fight for you. Call me today.
If you're retired and in a financial crisis, there is a way out.
It pains me when I see a retired couple exhaust their savings by paying credit card bills and for a home hopelessly underwater.
Thav Gross specializes in helping retired people in financial crisis.
You just can't keep paying until you're broke. You need to address the problem now.
888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
We're Thav Gross. Our firm will solve your problem.
Going from hourly to salary seemed like a good career move, but now you're working 60 hours a week instead of 40, and you aren't getting paid any of that extra time. You're stuck, right? Wrong. You can be on salary and still be entitled to overtime. If you've been wrongly denied such pay, you may be entitled to that and more. Gold Star Law is here to help you through your employment law problem, whatever it is.
Gold Star Law, protecting employees' rights. Call 1-800-WAGES-10 for a free consultation today.
Is the debt piling up? Struggling to get by?
It's all about preserving future income. Bankruptcy is one option. When it's right, it's the least costly, most effective way to save your home, eliminate a second mortgage, and wipe out credit card debt. But you need to address the problem now.
We help people with bankruptcy. Call the experts.
We're Thav Gross. Our firm will solve your problem.
888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
All right, welcome back. I want to thank our sponsors, and then we'll do announcements after the next break. But I want to thank our sponsors, Venn Johnson Law. I want to thank Kate at Gold Star Law. They've been one of our sponsors right from the very beginning of the show. Which, by the way, this show is now in our second year. We've now 13 months on. We're in our 6th year on the radio, but we're in our 13th month on the television version on Sundays at 11 o'clock a.m. on TV 20.
We can get, we just have to last another 6 months. I think then we can go into syndication.
There you go. Samasco Law, that way I can botch up the English language nationally. That would be wonderful. Samasco Law, double action shooting range and gun shop, spine specialist in Michigan, Elite REO Services, Alan Stalter, and coming on board, Cardiology Associates of Michigan. A little shout out to Johnny Pomodoros and Detroit Popcorn, our gift certificate sponsors. I forgot to do in the last segment the quote of the day for you, Brian, so I'm going to give you 2 quotes.
Uh-oh.
The last time we've done this on the show, you were wrong.
I was wrong, but I told you at the beginning
Kate can help you out
when
a
you
little
gave
bit.
the quote, I didn't know the answer.
Okay, here it is. He who knows nothing, I'm going to repeat that for you, Brian. He who knows nothing is closer to the truth than he whose mind is filled with falsehoods and errors. Option A, Thomas Jefferson. B, Albert Einstein. C, Plato.
I'm going with Thomas Jefferson. It sounds Jeffersonian.
Kate?
I'm going to guess Einstein because Brian was wrong last time.
Okay.
Buzz on Brian. Kate is right. It's Albert Einstein. 0
Really?
for 2. All right, we're going to go one more. This is a bonus question for this segment for you. Maybe you can get it right. You ready? You're peeking. You can't tell. Put my hand over it. Knowledge. Brian, the word, I'll repeat it for you. Knowledge without justice ought to be called cunning rather than wisdom. Option A, Plato. B, Confucius say. C, Ralph Waldo Emerson.
Plato.
Kate?
Plato.
Plato's correct. So you've redeemed yourself, Brian.
Okay.
I think Brian does not believe that he was wrong on the first one.
I don't believe I was wrong
I can
either.
If you ever played cards, your tell would be very visible. I can tell you're ready to go research whether
I am
going to
go research that one. That just does not sound like Albert Einstein.
I'll show you the answer key just so that you can tell that if it's wrong, it's a typo. 211. That was the answer key. Okay.
Where do you say you get these quotes from?
I'm not telling you. You can go and research whatever you want. BrainyQuotes.com is where I get them from. Give credit where credit is due. It's a fun. If anyone wants a website for quotes, I think it's a great website. It's got all topical areas by author, by topic, whatever. All right, security clearances. Can I be denied a job if I filed a bankruptcy, in contrast to being fired for filing a bankruptcy? What about on a security clearance?
Well,
forget about the quotes.
All right,
Brian.
I'll forget about the
Concentrate.
quotes.
You're here as an expert on bankruptcy.
Can you be denied a job or denied a security clearance?
That was the question. Yeah, I love when people repeat the same question
and the
because
answer
they're not
is,
paying attention.
Okay, first of all, start off with if your credit is bad, you can be denied a security clearance.
Okay. I've seen that happen with clients. I've seen that happen with the government jobs
absolutely.
too.
And there is a level of concern that you might be denied a security clearance because you filed a bankruptcy. But 11 U.S.C. 525 says that you can't be solely because of a bankruptcy.
By the government.
By the government. So the issue is when there's a denial of a security clearance, are there other reasons in addition to just the filing of a bankruptcy? You're a credit risk. You're a security risk if you owe debt. and you have the inability to pay it because you might sell out secrets to a foreign nation that is not friendly to, or period.
No, in fact, I have a client who went through that process, and he wanted to be a job as an interpreter in the Mideast, and he was very qualified as an interpreter. He had a horrible credit problem. He first comes in, and he doesn't want to file the bankruptcy because he's been told if he files the bankruptcy, he will not get approved on his application. This is working for the government, too, but I guess it's one of it's ground. The problem was he wasn't going to get approved anyway because of his credit was so bad that he was the risk. So ultimately, I said to him, you're never going to solve your problem and get the job unless you file the bankruptcy, get the credit cleaned up, and then wait 5-6 years, reapply. If you still want to go into that, you got to deal with reality, because he put himself into this limbo mode for 2 years. There was no way he could work his way out of the credit. He had a failed business. He had judgments against him for hundreds of thousands of dollars. There was no working your way out of it, so he had to bite the bullet, and then eventually, if he wants to go back in there, he can. Sometimes you have to take the medicine. I don't want to say medicine, but you have to deal with reality of make the best possible move for your future. It's not always exactly the way you want it. You can't always write your own script, is what it kind of comes down to.
This is absolutely true. And the interesting thing is that you can be denied these security clearances or licenses, or your license can even be revoked in certain circumstances for doctors or for other licensed professionals if you owe debt. But once you've eliminated the debt from a bankruptcy standpoint, you can't be. Example, in California, I know that a physician can lose his license for unpaid state of California tax debt.
And right now, CPAs run into that problem with tax debt with the IRS. Now they can lose their right to practice in front of. They can lose their right to be to sign the returns and file the returns. That's a big issue that comes up on that. It's a little bit off track. I want to ask another question, and then we're probably going to come up to a break in the middle of it. But this one's kind of going over to Kate. It's something that I've been hearing about on the radio. What about these laws that say if you have a criminal conviction, you can't be denied employment based on that? I hear a couple states have adopted those laws.
Right. Michigan doesn't have a specific law that says that you can't be denied employment based on a criminal history, but the EEOC has stated, and the courts have upheld, that using a facially neutral policy that says, we don't hire people with a criminal history can be a form of racial discrimination because it has a disparate impact. African American and Hispanic men are significantly more likely to have a criminal history, so a policy like that can be considered race discrimination unless the employer can show that it's job-related and that it's consistent with the business necessity.
All right, so if I say to a Caucasian, I'm not going to hire you because you have a criminal conviction, then am I okay on that in Michigan?
There's been no cases on that specifically, but the standard for a disparate impact case would make it very difficult, if not impossible, for a Caucasian applicant to bring a law into
that kind of a claim.
Right.
It's an interesting issue. It's an interesting policy issue if you think about it from an employer standpoint, public. But there's a lot of people have convictions in history. What about the fresh start concept? Take a break. We'll be back.
You like your job. What you don't like is the way your boss has been treating you. He's making comments about how you look instead of your work, and he's been touching you inappropriately. If you complain, is he allowed to fire you? Absolutely not. Unwelcome sexual comments, advances, and contact are illegal in the workplace. Make him pay. Gold Star Law is here to help you through your employment law problem, whatever it is.
Gold Star Law, protecting employees' rights. Call 1-800-WAGES-10 for a free consultation today.
Carrying too much debt? Resolve your debt. Call Thav Gross.
You don't need to be broke, and you don't need to hit rock bottom. If you have income and you're struggling with debt, dump it. Think about the next 10 or 20 years. If you do what the banks tell you, you'll have nothing to retire with. There is a solution.
Don't waste your future. Call Thav Gross. We're experts at eliminating credit card debt. 888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
Every family has the family meeting, and we all know what that means. Dad's got dementia. What are we going to do? What's the care plan that the family has in place? Usually they don't or they struggle with a care plan. When you go home tonight and you talk to your tax person and you talk to your financial person, say, what's the plan that you have in place? And as soon as they don't give you an answer, give me a call, because I can do it for you.
Double Action, shooting center and gun shop for the largest selection of guns, accessories, and ammunition. Double Action is your only pro gun shop. And now you can train with the best in our basic CCW course with the most comprehensive curriculum, the best resources, and most accomplished staff. Don't be fooled by cheap imitations. Double Action is the only place to get your CCW or renewal. Double Action. We're on DeQuinder and Madison Heights.
Do you have tax problems, unfiled returns? Facing levies on wages in your property? You need an expert, not a cartoon character or salesman. Thav Gross is your solution.
You need to look at the big picture. That's what we do. We develop a plan that's right for you.
I had major tax problems. I didn't know what to do.
You need to address the problem now. Call the experts.
We're Thav Gross. Our firm will solve your problem.
888-235-HELP. That's 888-235-HELP.
Welcome back. I want to cover announcements. We've got a seminar coming up, but I have to clean up an issue that was pointed out to me at the break, a very serious matter. Brian Small, in contrary to corporate policy, was using his smartphone again. But he went.
It was
on
in the break.
He went onto the phone and went to brainyquotes.com, which I lost the. I've got it to double check on the quote of the day, and he has correctly established that the quote, "He who knows nothing is closer to the truth than he whose mind is filled with falsehoods and errors," was Thomas Jefferson.
It just didn't sound Einsteinian.
It wasn't Albert Einstein. So, Kate, you were wrong. But you were reacting to Brian. Brian, you were correct. I apologize. However, I am throwing out your phone because you're using it too much. You have a fit anytime it's not attached to you. So you can have your phone back in 3 weeks if that's not acceptable. I'm sure there's other firms that are looking for a competent, qualified
I'll just go
expert.
buy a new one and put it on the firm's charge. It's not a problem.
All right, so I apologize for my miscue on the brainyquote.com. It was, I guess, my enthusiasm to show that you were wrong got carried away.
I didn't really know the quote. It just sounded
so you
Jeffersonian.
Seminar coming up. We have a seminar coming up Tuesday, February 25th. Title of that seminar is The Importance of Budget. No, that's the title. How to Eliminate Your Debt and Build Wealth. We're covering budgeting, all financial issues, student loan debt. You want to sign up for it 7 to 8:30 p.m. It goes an hour and a half. There's questions and answers after. You actually, people that come to the seminar get a free copy of my book, Dump Your Debt. Our seminars, generally speaking, get 40 to 50 people at them. They really enjoy the seminar. The comments that we get back and the feedback is always inspiring. That's why we keep doing them. We have a good time. It's a lot of information, and it's current information, and it's a changing environment day to day on financial issues in terms of what works on a short sale, will it work, are loan mods available, how can you go about settling credit card debt outside of bankruptcy? What's the truth on handling a tax problem? There's a lot of fiction out there. There's a lot of, I often marvel as I'm driving in the car and I'm listening to either AM or satellite radio, and I listen to the commercials.
I don't think I've marveled in a long time.
I honestly believe that 90% of the statements that are made in commercials are false. I mean, it just, when you hear these tax commercials, when you hear these freedom blank blank relief commercials, they paint a picture that's just not true. You need to have correct information and correct analysis in order to make key decisions for your future. So,
Ken, one thing
people to do it the right
about
way.
the seminar, when we talk about budgeting, I don't want people to think that we're going to be talking about belt tightening. What we're going to be talking about is getting more satisfaction out of your spending while eliminating the waste to allow you to create wealth.
Let me simplify that. You're not going to sit there and say to me, I can't go to Starbucks if I want to go to Starbucks.
I'm not going to tell you not to go to Starbucks.
I told you a long time ago, if we're going to have that discussion, it's off the table.
No, it's helping you as the listener, find out what's really important for
I
you
don't
to
even
spend
want
money
you
on.
to ruin the cup of coffee for me by I don't want you to convince me that I shouldn't go to Starbucks.
But I don't.
I don't want to have any discussion about
I'm gonna
Starbucks
help you
at the budgeting conference.
I'm going to help you find out what's important for you to spend your money on that you believe is important.
Fine. Among all the other important topics we're going to talk about.
Absolutely.
Okay, I know this is a passion of yours. Back to bankruptcy questions. I'm going to fire them away at you, see how fast we can get in the last 4 minutes. If I file bankruptcy, will I be able to keep my car?
So long as you can afford your car, we're allowed to reaffirm your vehicle debt and
If I'm making $40,000 a year and I have a $1,700 a month car payment, can I keep my car?
A $1,700 a month car payment?
It's a really nice car.
No.
Okay, I didn't think so. But if I have a $300 a month car payment?
Yes.
No problem. Okay, if I file bankruptcy, can I use my credit cards while I'm in the middle of the bankruptcy?
The answer is no and yes. If you have no debt owed on a credit card after you file your bankruptcy, that credit card may still allow you to continue to be used. The only thing you have to disclose when you file a bankruptcy is who are your creditors?
Will I have a credit card after I file a bankruptcy?
It's possible, but it's also unlikely because there's a national servicing agency that informs most credit card lenders that you filed a bankruptcy.
If I file a Chapter 13, which is a plan of reorganization for an individual that lasts 3 to 5 years, can I get a credit card during the pendency of the Chapter 13?
Yes. There are various types of credit cards that are available out there, from low-limit credit, which is unsecured, or secured credit cards where you put a deposit with the bank and you have a line of credit equal to your deposit.
All right, let's suppose I can't get a credit card. How would I pay for travel expenses if I'm a salesperson without a credit card? What do I do?
Cash is king. Debit card always works. And sometimes you can get an a credit card with...
Like a prepaid credit card?
A prepaid credit card. You can get one from your employer. But it's really not a problem to get a secured credit card with a line of credit.
This is an issue that comes up a lot in the office, not only if it's a question of filing bankruptcy, but sometimes what we do is debt resolution sometimes where it's a solution outside of bankruptcy where we settle the credit card debt by stop paying, and then we take the money you're making on the payments for the credit cards, we save that up and use it to settle the credit cards at major discounts. It's a campaign that we use to get out of debt in a range of 14 to 16 months typically. People in that situation are oftentimes worried, well, they say to me, can I keep my American Express card? And what we say to them is, you can keep it, but if there's a balance on it, you'd probably be better off settling it. And number two is the credit card companies trim your available credit when they see the credit history going bad, so they get very worried, how am I going to pay for my expenses? How can I live without a credit card? And the answer is debit card, secured credit card, and prepaid credit card.
Absolutely.
And cash. Cash still works. How long before my credit score comes back if I file bankruptcy? You only got 10 seconds.
Anywhere from 24 to 30 months is the usual till you can get credit again for most things other than mortgages.
One real fast one. How long till I can buy a house?
The answer is usually about 5 years till you qualify for a traditional mortgage.
I want to thank Brian, Kate, Matt from Gold Star Law for being with us. Have a great week. We'll be back next week with the Financial Crisis Talk Center. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll be back.